Just recently, FNCS winners K1ng Fazer moved from the Brazil region to try their luck in EU. While they didn't perform incredibly, they still managed to qualify to the FNCS Grand Finals where they placed 40th. This got me thinking into every pro who has switched regions and whether they found success or crumbled under the pressure of their entire region counting on them. When switching regions, pros might consider the higher prize pools or to simply prove they're better than the skill level their region provides. This was definitely the case for Jahyln, Zoreh and Parpy, who would make the switch from the small region of OCE to compete in the NA East Season X FNCS. Parpy had qualified to the World Cup the previous season, whereas Jahyln and Zoreh were both extremely skilled Tier 1 players in OCE. So coming into the FNCS, there's some high expectations. It didn't take long for the OCE boys to start dominating, placing well in the Trio Cash Cups with a 3rd and 7th place. Zoreh was also a standout in the Solos game mode, where he won the first Solo Cash Cup he played and would go on to place top 5 in 6 of the total 8 he played on the region. When it came to FNCS, the trio would again dominate, winning week 4 of FNCS finals, taking home $60,000 and even placing a respectable 6th in the grand finals. Ultimately, they would make an extremely impressive $90,000 in earnings during their short stay in NA. As the three made their way back to OCE, they wouldn't quite reach the heights of NA, but still find some solid FNCS placements throughout the years. However, eventually they would fall into the sad trend in OCE, where all three have now been banned for either account sharing or hacking. Nevertheless, throughout their time in NA, they proved that switching regions was definitely possible. As we came into 2020, the pandemic would halt any international changes. However, Centered and Edgey were still determined to make the switch from NA West to East. The duo was unarguably levels above the rest of the NA West. Alongside Rex, the trio had already won 6 Trio Cash Cups and 3 of the FNCS weeks in Season X. Picking up Epic Whale for squads only increased their reign, with an average placement of 2nd through the 4 FNCS weeks and coming 3rd in the Grand Finals. So coming into Duo FNCS in Season 2, it only made sense for Centered and Edgey to make the switch from the West Coast to Virginia. The duo would quickly find success, winning week 3 and placing 6th in the Grand Finals. With Trio FNCS being announced for the rest of the chapter, the West duo would pick up commandment, and the rest was history.
Use your chuggy, get your finish.
Nice. Oh my god.
With 4 second places in a row in the FNCS Grand Finals, they were unstoppable. Even after splitting up, the two would keep up incredible consistency, most notably with Centered's 3rd place in the Invitational and Edgey's FNCS win alongside Dukes. Meanwhile, back in OCE, Muzz, Looter and Speedy were coming off back-to-back Trio FNCS wins in Seasons 5 and 6. With an opportunity to move to NA, the three would sign to TNA, where they were set to move to NA East and once again prove OCE could hang at the top. Unfortunately, they would struggle heavily throughout their first season in NA, failing to make the Grand Finals. However, Muzz was consistently the standout of the trio, placing well in Solo Cash Cups and showing incredible skill. Seeing the potential and needing a 3rd, Booger and Mero would pick up the underrated Muzz for the final season of Trios, where in just their first FNCS together, they would shock everyone, taking 1st place and making Muzz the first player to win FNCS on multiple regions.
Good, I need it now.
Fox! 94!
We play slow, guys. Oh, you, Mero. Top 3, baby. Get that kill. Nice. Good try. Bro, if Jamper got 30 points,
Oh my god! We won! Let's go!
Unfortunately, Speedy wouldn't make the same splash, and the less said about Looter's reboot round performance, the better. Looter and Speedy would head back to OCE, where Looter has continued to dominate and Speedy's been enjoying life, giving us chicken parma updates on Twitter. Muzz has continued to stay in NA, where he's racked up a few solid top 10 FNCS Grands placements and continued his dominance. He's now closing in on an impressive 100k earnings on the region. While it was clear pros had found success moving to NA East on the other side of the world, it hadn't been done before. This didn't deter Force and eventually Alan, who would head to Germany to try their luck in the region of EU. Coming off a first place in FNCS Season 6, they would leave behind their third Shamokiy. However, I'd want you to remember that name for later. On EU, Force found decent success, coming 14th in the Season 7 FNCS Grands and placing well in Cash Cups throughout late Chapter 2. Unfortunately, Alan would fail to make the same impact, as he arrived after Force, meaning he struggled to find a trio and only made $400 in earnings before heading back to Asia. However, Force would stay in EU, where he continued to place in Cash Cups and even qualified to the Grand Royale and Chapter 2 Season 2 Grand Finals. Although Force definitely slowed down in his competitive career, he still managed to qualify to an EU Grand Finals, a task which OCE pros Sunz and Vortex sadly failed to complete. After dominating OCE, winning Season 7 FNCS, and having an average placement of 2nd from their last 4 Grand Finals, the two young Australians were signed to Loot Boy and headed to Germany. Although their first few tournaments were promising, placing well in a few Cash Cups, when it came to FNCS, they couldn't replicate the success in OCE, and flew back to their home region with around $2,000 in earnings between the two from their short stay in EU. Although Vortex has kept up good consistency, placing in tournaments and streaming to around 300 viewers, sadly it looks like Sunz hasn't kept the same motivation, as he has likely sold his account to cheaters in OCE. Sunz's Fortnite tracker has now been deleted, and the last Fortnite related tweet was a duo announcement with Copenhagen qualifier Repulse God. While it was clear moving to EU was a difficult task, this didn't deter the aforementioned Shamokiy, who was left behind as his teammates moved to Europe after winning the Season 6 FNCS. Joining up with the underrated Swizzy, who had barely 1,000 earnings to his name at the time, the duo alongside Zotac would immediately start Chapter 2 Season 8 with a bang, and only in Swizzy's second FNCS Grand Finals they would take home the title. It was clear Swizzy had incredible potential, and as the two teamed up once again for Chapter 3's FNCS duos, they would place a respectable 3rd and 7th in Seasons 1 and 2. This success convinced the duo it was time to switch regions. However, it wasn't the only reason. While Swizzy and Shamokiy were playing in the Asia region, they were actually Russian, meaning the new sanctions placed on the country now meant any pros who resided in Russia would be denied their prize money. So as the duo travelled to Belarus for the Chapter 4 Season 1 FNCS, the two would straight away find success in just their first FNCS Grand Finals on EU. After day 1, the duo was in 2nd place, and although things would fall apart slightly in the second day, they would ultimately finish in 9th place. Unfortunately, the duo would split up after a disappointing 26 in the following FNCS. But after Swizzy showed further potential, winning a world record 5 Victory Cup wins, Swizzy would be picked up by Putrick, and this turned out to be the right decision, as in the Grand Finals this is where the duo would show their true dominance, taking first place by over 150 points and making Swizzy just the 2nd multi-region FNCS winner.
Лучший, блядь! Сотка. Я прыгаю, убил, одного убил, на ХГ, можем просто спрейт, нет, спрей, кракнул, убил, сау, попробуй в него дипнуть, если можешь. Кракнул, найс, туда, мы выиграли.
Unfortunately, in the coming weeks, it was revealed Putrick was still a Russian citizen despite moving to Belarus, meaning they would be disqualified from the Globals in Copenhagen and Putrick's earnings would be stripped. Even with the setback, Shamokiy and Swizzy have found new duos for Chapter 4, and even in the recent Cash Cup, they placed 2nd in the finals. The final and most recent duo to switch regions was of course the Brazilians K1ng Fazer, who need no introduction, with the duo's back-to-back FNCS wins in Chapter 4, including a 50% win rate in the Season 2 Grands, where they won 6 of the 12 games. As they switched regions, they became the first ever Brazil to do so, where they placed in their first Duo Cash Cup on EU, and although the duo had a rocky FNCS, they still managed to qualify to the Grand Finals, where they placed 40th. The two Brazilians have now headed back to their home region, where it looks like they might try to qualify to the Global LAN in the Season 2 FNCS, and then come back to EU for the rest of the year. In conclusion, it's very interesting to see how every pro has moved to a region with a higher prize pool and skill level than their home region. However, it would be very interesting to see how a pro could place if he moved to, let's say, a smaller region. Let me know in the comments if you think Archie could win, or where you think he would place in an OCE Grand Finals. Alright, so that wraps up the video, guys. I just wanted to say I've also made a second channel, which is going to be linked in the description, and I'll be posting videos on like other games and other topics, so show that some love, and I'll see you guys later.